You ever feel that? That kind of low-grade hum of anxiety in the background of your day? It's like this constant chatter, this digital noise, pulling your attention in 100 different directions at once. It's this feeling of being overwhelmed, totally exhausted, and just always on. Well, let's get into this because that feeling, that's become the new normal for pretty much all of us.
And the crazy thing is, this feeling isn't even new. We're talking nearly 2,000 years ago. The Roman philosopher Seneca described this exact same state of mind. Now, obviously, he didn't have a smartphone, but he saw the same pattern of distraction. He called it the restlessness of a hunted mind. It's just a powerful reminder that this struggle for focus, it's a deeply human thing.
So if that quote hits home for you, you are definitely not alone. This sense that our relationship with technology is just unsustainable, that if something doesn't change, we might just break, that's a huge, widespread feeling. This isn't some personal failure. It's a shared experience in this crazy, hyper-connected world we live in.
Okay, so if it's not really our fault, what's actually going on? Well, the thing is, we've been thrown into this lopsided arms race. We're not just casually using these apps and websites. We are locked in a high-stakes battle for our most valuable asset, our attention. And you gotta understand, the other side came very, very prepared for this fight.
The core weapon in this arms race is something called behavioral addiction. Now, when we hear addiction, our minds usually jump to substances, right? But it's so much broader. It's about any behavior that's been engineered to be so rewarding that we just keep chasing it over and over, even when we know deep down it's hurting us.
And listen, this is not an accident. This is a feature, not a bug. In this just shockingly honest moment, Sean Parker, the very first president of Facebook, he just laid it all out. He admitted the entire goal was to consume as much of our time and attention as possible. And how they do it? By exploiting a vulnerability in our own psychology, engineering a little dopamine hit to keep us hooked.
This chart breaks down exactly how it works. I mean, think about a slot machine. You pull the lever and you have no idea if you're going to win. It's that unpredictability that gets you hooked. Well, social media works on the exact same principle. It's called intermittent positive reinforcement. You post a photo, you pull the lever, and you gamble on the feedback. Well, you get a bunch of likes or crickets. That random reward creates a compulsion loop that is incredibly hard to break. This line from Bill Maher just nails it. It compares the architects of this whole attention economy to the tobacco industry. And look, it sounds harsh, but the parallel is kind of chilling. Both industries figured out human psychology and then designed products that create dependency for profit, and both have had serious consequences for our well-being. So what is the real cost of being constantly connected? It goes way beyond just wasted time. We're losing something deep, our ability to think, to be present, and honestly, our own peace of mind. Let's take a look at what's really at stake here. 85. Just take a second and let that number sink in. That's how many times the average person compulsively checks their phone, every single day. Each one of those little checks is an interruption, a tiny tear in the fabric of your focus, and they all add up to this massive drain on your mental energy. And here's the fundamental problem. It's a mismatch. Our brains evolved over thousands and thousands of years for a very different world. They're just not designed for the constant, relentless fire hose of digital information we face every day. We're not wired to be constantly wired, and you can feel the strain. By filling every single empty moment, waiting in line at the coffee shop, walking down the street, with our phones, we have basically eliminated solitude from our lives. And we're not just avoiding boredom, we're avoiding the quiet space our brains desperately need to think and reflect. Abraham Lincoln, for example, used regular periods of solitude to process the insane pressures of the Civil War. That's where he came up with the Emancipation Proclamation. We've traded that essential creative space for a quick scroll. The data shows that the average user spends about 3 hours a day just staring at their phone screen. Now, that might not sound like a lot, but that's over a full day out of every single week. That's an entire month out of every year. Just think about what you could do with an extra month every year. Learn an instrument, write a book, actually spend time with your family. The opportunity cost is just staggering. Okay, so this all sounds pretty bleak, right? How do we even begin to fight back? Well, the answer isn't a bunch of little life hacks or tips. It actually requires a huge shift in our thinking. It requires a whole new philosophy for how we use technology. And that philosophy is called digital minimalism. It's not about hating technology or throwing your phone in a river. No, it's about flipping the script completely.
You focus your online time only on a handful of things that truly support your deepest values. And here's the key, and probably the hardest part. You learn to happily miss out on everything else.
Let's just look at the difference here. The default mindset for most of us is maximalist. It's totally driven by FOMO, the fear of missing out. Any tiny potential benefit is enough for us to say yes to a new app or service. The minimalist mindset flips that on its head. It starts from a default of no. It asks a much tougher question. Does this tool give me a massive, undeniable benefit for something I truly care about? It sets a really, really high bar. The Amish are a fascinating real-world example of this in action. They don't just reject all technology. Instead, their community carefully debates whether a new tool, like a car or the internet, will actually support or undermine their core values, which are family and community. They're betting that the power of being intentional is worth way more than the convenience of any single gadget.
All right, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? How do you put this into practice in your own life? Well, the final step is a clear, actionable plan to get you started on this journey.
Here it is, a simple 3-step process. First, you take a 30-day break from all your optional tech. This isn't really a test of willpower. It's about giving yourself a clean slate. Step 2, and this is so important, you have to actively rediscover things you love to do in the real world. You can't just sit around missing your apps. And then third, after the break is over, you start reintroducing technology, but very, very carefully, asking if each tool has truly earned its place back in your life. And when you do bring a tool back, you do it with strict rules. Think of them as your personal operating procedures. This is all about making these tools your servants again, not your masters. For example, instead of letting social media pull at you all day from your phone, you decide, I'm only checking it on my computer on Saturdays. You set the terms. You're back in control. And really, that's what this all comes down to. In this modern world, your attention is your most valuable currency. It's finite. It's what you use to build a meaningful life. So the question we have to leave you with is a simple one, but a really powerful one. Who or what are you letting spend it?